Right, as we were cleaning up underneath where the battery compartment is, just over there, we were following the metalwork through underneath with all the undersill that we're trying to remove, and it comes straight into the boot section here. So we're going to look at trying to remove the boot now. I don't know if it's going to be successful, but we've already removed some of the spot welds from this strengthening part over the rear axle. We're just going to take that off and then look at removing some of these spot welds that are easy to see and get to, and any that are not, we'll just either air chisel, or we've got a nibbler that will remove those, remove a section near enough so that we can start looking at clearing underneath as well. So we got that central strengthener off the axle, and we've worked our way along this edge, worked our way down this side. This was already cut off because we did the chassis arm earlier, so that's already detached from that side. It's just held slightly in that corner. There seems to be a bit of a plug weld in the corners, and so like I say, we've worked all the way along here. We're just coming down this side, and we've got to remove those plug welds from the end. There's been a repair done on this side which has come all the way through, so I'm not sure how far we'll be able to get through without actually having to cut it off with a angle grinder or something. But let's see how we get on and come back when it's all done. So I thought I'd give you an update on how far we'd got. Been at it a little bit longer. I didn't realise, but there are 4 spot welds about 1.5 inches in from the edge, which need to be removed. I also drilled the very corner ones out, but they actually seem to be part of the same tray, so they don't need to be removed. It's just this edge, just at this point here, and the same on the other side. So we haven't actually removed these ones yet, but they're roughly about here. We've worked further on down this edge, and we've also cut along this section here. I don't know if you can see it, this section here, and obviously the boot is now dropped and is now free on this side. We've just got to work round and do the other side, and with this section here, something here, it doesn't seem right in the makeup of it. I think something's been bodged along here, so I've cut it off early so that we can work out what's gone on there and put it right. You'll see once again there's all holes in the chassis leg, and they put plates on there to sort of cover it up, and bits of silicone and all sorts of things. So when we get round to it, that will be cut off as this side was and repaired. It wasn't welded at all to the car, and it's just been siliconed in to make it look like it's still fitting, and this piece of metal here is just to cover over the fact that it wasn't welded, so you couldn't actually see it. So we're going to need to remove all of that so we can get the rest of this boot section out. So I've just spent the last hour or so temporarily fitting the boot in, so I can see where the metal is shy and what we need to replace. And I'm not quite sure if the boot actually welds directly to the valance, which is a possibility. But whatever happens, that lip which comes down, which you can see is tattered and torn, clearly needs to be cut off and replaced with new metal. But it looks like the boot should actually weld to the valance. So what I might do is do a quick internet search just to make sure that is how it should be, and then we can plug weld that in when we actually come to doing that part of it. The boot was only put in there just to see what was necessary to be done on this back edge, and we're going to be doing the other side of the chassis, the rear end part of the chassis, same as we did on this side, on the driver's side, before we put the boot in. So I spent the last couple of hours working on this boot because it didn't fit. It was too long. Some wings are too short, some wings are too long. The boot was too long for the space. So what we've done is we've hammered the edge in slightly, and also this front edge, which you may or may not be able to see, that's been hammered in slightly, but it's nearly fitting, so we're just about there. So I think what we're going to do now is call it a day for this and start punching some holes in for the welding. On the front we use the bumper iron bolts in order to set the height of the back of the boot, and obviously the front part of the boot, the bit you're looking at the moment, is set by the ledge anyway, so we think that's pretty much in the right place now. So we're going to probably mark up the chassis legs just to make sure that that we clean off the right part of the chassis leg, so we can put some weld through spray on it. Weld through spray all the edge of this, and then we can weld it in. So I've prepared all the edges around, and we've drilled the rear valance, as you can see, and down this side's all been done. We've got some repair holes that we need to do before we put the boot in, but we've also got the boot all prepared, all punched all the way around and welded through spray. So we found that the welding of the exhaust bracket here was very poor, and actually has fallen off on 4 of the welds, so we've re-drilled and we're going to plug that back on properly. And we don't trust the 2 welds that were done, so we put another weld on this side as well, just to make sure that's done. And we've actually put the holes in for that bracket to be welded to the rear valance on here as well. It's going to be easier to weld it from this side, so hence why doing it. So now we know that we can get this boot catch in with the boot in. We're going to put it in now because it's going to be easier to do now, otherwise we'll be working really low to the floor, because actually we'd have to be inside the boot in order to do it. So we're just going to put this on now. So the boot catch has been put on, and we've ground back the welds, and we've also done a bit of repair work on this side, whereupon we filled up a few holes and neatened up a few other areas, so when it's actually painted it won't look quite as bad as it did before. And we've also done some work on this side, just repairing some marks and holes and stuff like that, and actually attaching the bottom part of the boot support to the chassis in a few places where it's slightly bowed. I know it's fixed on the other side, but this side was slightly bowed out, so to make that easier to fit the boot in, we've actually put a few welds just to hold that onto the chassis. So in order to get the first weld in, we put a weld across the top so that we can then bend down to the part that's already there, bend the boot part down to the bit that's already there, because as you can see it's right up in the air. We've managed to get that corner down, but I think I've got to work my way along from one side, making sure it comes down all the way. So we've started working our way across, and what we've had to do is prop up the bottom ledge here underneath, so that we can hit down on it to get things level, because the fold on this metal was wrong. And we've also tacked on that side as well, but at the moment we're only working at the back. We did put one weld down on the side over here, but we need something to spread the metal apart in the boot to actually get to the chassis leg, so we'll probably use a bottle jack and a piece of wood to push it together. So that's now fully welded in, so that's the boot on the rear valance, and then inside it's been welded all the way around, and on this side, and this is all going to need scurfing down to make it look nice and neat. We also put a few little tack weld down there where the 2 sheets, where it's been manufactured, they were coming apart slightly there, so I wasn't happy with that, so I put a tack weld down there and also a tack weld on this side, just to keep those 2 sheets together. So all those welds have been rubbed down, and we've also done inside the boot as well. That's all been rubbed down completely flat, and now we've got this bracket to weld back in again. So we've just cleaned up both sides of it. We're going to put some weld through spray on it and then weld that in. So that's now fully welded in place, and we'll just go over with the angle grinder to neaten up some of the welds. So this has been rubbed over now and wiped out with some thinners. So we're ready to give it a coat of paint of hammerite. So that's its first coat of hammerite. First coat of many, I'm sure. It will be getting another one within a day or so once this is hardened off. And then as maintenance we'll probably be hammerite it. So we've gone on right up to the lip, and also including the things that the parcel shelf is held with. And this is from the other side, looking back out the car. Not quite sure how much you can actually see. That's all painted in the valance area as well.